I think quite a long time I felt like when I started to get into that, I felt quite guilty that it sounds silly, I was neglecting my business because of my kids, which is like, it's obviously the wrong way around, but that's what it felt like. I felt like I had a guilt between being torn. We're trying to run a business and grow a business that contributes a lot to our family compared to looking after the kids.
So I'm Matthew Cox and I'm a business strategist. I've run and grown multiple businesses over the last 15 or so years. Join me on my journey with helping other entrepreneurs figure out what their goals are, how to set them and how to achieve them. So today we've got Matt, that's Matt with one T, not two T's, coming in from the Logo Emporium, and we're going to be talking about the ability to expand his business. He's employs about 3 or 4 people at the moment, and he really wants to take it to that next step. But how's he going to find those customers, and how's he going to retain those levels of staff? So if you want to know more about that, let's get into the podcast. So let's get stuck in. Right, we're here today with Matt with one T from the Logo Emporium, specialist embroidery company. So we're going to have a little look at Matt's goals today and kind of where he wants to be in kind of 1 to 5 to 10 years time, as we standard do on the show, and see what hurdles you're going to get. So first of all, Matt, tell us a little bit about the Logo Emporium, kind of in a elongated elevator pitch. So maybe like when you started it all the way to where you are now.
Yeah, so we're nearly 10 years old, 9.5 years into it. And when we started, it was just myself, and I could still, it's like a lot of business owners probably still remember the first order that they ever did back in those days. And then now, we got a team of 2. So James and Grace are back in the office as well. I suppose a team of 3 if you count myself.
Yeah.
So now we're servicing customers from Sussex Beds, Sea Tyres, Filio, Sylvania, Birchwood Group.
Yeah.
And then back in, it was like Stag and Hen Do shirts. So our customer base has grown and progressed through different things.
Yeah. And is all that all inside the UK, or do you get export as well? Or?
Yeah, no, all in UK. We have, all over the country we have customers, so we use couriers to ship to them, and also like, Jersey and those sort of offshore islands.
United Kingdom.
That's it.
Stuff,
but no exporting as such.
Fine. And you've got 3 team members, including yourself, and 10 years pretty much going.
Yeah.
And presumably it was you started it, and then you've grown into where you are now, because I know you recently moved, didn't you?
No,
not that recently, but
no. Well, we've always been in the same place,
but
there's been an extension to the building that we've moved into. Okay. So effectively, it's added, double the size that we've got.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a question that I like to ask all the guests when they come on is, what was young Matt with one T like as a kid? So they're you're kind of GCSE, well, you're kind of primary school up to GCSE, maybe leaving school, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I was always quite shy. I was always quite shy. And I think a big thing, first job, when you're sort of 14, 15, 16, I was a cleaner in an old person's home.
Yeah.
So saw a lot of things, mix of a lot of different ages. I played cricket all my life, so I think that's always a good sport for youngsters to go in, because you're playing with adults, kids your own age, you're spending all day with them. So I learned a lot of social skills with that. And then my first kind of proper job was in the sports shop in Lewis, a proper old school sports shop. And I think that's what sort of brought me out from that shyness, where you're interacting with customers and getting to know people, and a stranger will come in and instantly you want to strike up a rapport with them and be friendly with them. So quite shy. And then I think I come out of my shell, and then went to uni and things like that.
Yeah.
To where we are today.
What did you do at uni?
Music industry management and live production.
Oh, okay.
Which sounds like completely useless now, and most of it is.
Yeah.
But like within that, we did law modules, marketing, management theories, and things like that.
Yeah.
Economics.
I often
finance.
find that with the degrees, they have like a strange name where you think like horticultural care or something like that, but then actually what they've done is legal systems and mathematics underneath it, and so it can be quite incredibly useful.
It's just a very specific thing, but the broader area, learn quite a lot, and obviously the life skills you get if you're going to uni.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm a big advocate of that, because I didn't do too well through school, so I went off to eventually I went to work, and then I came back and went off to university. And a lot of people in business haven't gone to uni or whatever, and they've done that school of life thing. But I think for me, probably it's very similar to yourself. what it did teach me was like how to talk in front of people and be confident and the rest of it, and believe in myself as well. Like I could actually achieve some academic qualification that's fair, regarded fairly high as a degree, even if it's I probably use mine a bit now. Mine was in business and media studies, so there's an element of it, but it's not in property, which is what I'm known for. I trained as a chartered surveyor, and then I gave up with it before I got qualified. Just to concentrate on my business, but it gave me the confidence to talk in front of people and do things.
I remember doing like a presentation, in our seminar groups, there's 8 people, whereas like now, when we go to BNI in 35, 40 people in front of you in the same room and bigger events and stuff like that. So you get a lot out of what just the title is on your certificate. Yeah,
definitely. I think School of Life and teaching you to be confident and things, and I personally needed that really. I was quite shy as well, so until I went to uni really and started having to be thrust in front of we'd have to do these Dragon Den style pitches and things on inventions and talk about IP agreements and stuff like that in front of like an auditorium of like 30 people. That's pretty intimidating.
Getting outside that comfort zone and pushing yourself forward.
Definitely. Okay, so I've had a quick scan of your goals and your what you do in the business on a day-to-day basis and all that kind of stuff. So what we've got here, we've got the 1-year goal to add a new print process to our setup and take on 1 more member of staff. 3 longer goals or medium goals to build more of a complete team with the dedicated roles and expand embroidery division. And then to have a 10-year goal to have built a model which is effective enough to serve hundreds of orders each week while still maintaining a focus on customer service and reliability. And then your challenges to reaching those would be to find the correct people that understand of how to do the work, coupled with the correct personality to deliver the customer service approach, as we currently have, being present with the correct marketing / environment to strike up relationships with larger companies, and juggling family needs, doing the school run 3 days a week limits time in the business during the day. And then most of your time spent in the business at the moment, we're on the cusp of being in a position to take on another member of staff. So my days are currently pretty hectic with taking the wheel of the sales marketing, generating processes and sales, whilst the team do the production and the handling of the orders. At the moment, I'm working in the business more than I like to, but a new member of staff should adjust that balance. So we'll come back to your kind of one year goals. So obviously you're looking to, really get to add to the new print process to take on a new member of staff. What's that going to mean in terms of your turnover? You don't have to give figures, but like a percentage.
Well, since we last spoke about that, it's the new printers arriving this week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we're almost there with that one.
Yeah.
But the new printer will mean that we can really streamline what we do. It takes out a lot of labour from the processes that we currently use. It's quite a new technology for our industry in the sense that it's kind of been there for a year or two, but they've just not had the reliability in the machines to make it worth it. So a lot of those machines have dropped out of the market. Yeah. But this is one that has a future proof to it, basically. Okay. So the new printer will mean that we can offer a wider range of printed logos. Yeah. We do, because obviously we have the embroidery and print, which is kind of two separate
things.
Yeah. And within the print, there's probably 2 or 3 different machines to do printing. Yeah. Whereas this pretty much does 2.5 of the jobs. Yeah. Already. So it'll be, quicker as into print, and the labour will be much reduced as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I suppose your 3 to 5 year goals to build more of a complete team with the dedicated roles and expand the embroidery division, if you like, that's kind of what I'm interested in mostly. So you kind of got this new member of staff, or going to get one, and then you've got this new printing thing. So how are you going to kind of get to this more complete team, do you think?
We're almost there to the figures to allow it. To have somebody in, like anything, it's that step, isn't it? You've got to build to that position and then make the jump, perhaps a bit earlier than you would like, but it's just a leap of faith that you have to take in this, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that you always have to look at employing people or taking them on when you perhaps can't really afford them, to be honest, if you're going to be entrepreneurial and go to that next stage. And often, I mean, I've done it probably more times than I care to remember, that I've employed people knowing we can't really afford them. And in fact, actually, it's just coming out of my ability to draw the money out of the business, really. But if that person is good at their job, then they're like an investment in their own right. Really.
You're growing into
come back to do that. So I guess it's one of your hurdles is employing the right type of people. I don't know. Is it the people that you employ? Are you kind of taking them in, nurturing them, and training them up, or are they coming from other? Because obviously it's quite a specialist job, if you like. It's not like, office work, for instance, which you might argue there's 6 of one and 2 dozen of
exactly.
people that are good with software. But this is a different type. So how does that work?
Yeah, so we're, happy to give full training and everything. I think a lot of it is dependent on that person and their personality for us. Obviously, they want to have, or they need to have that personality, that sales and that service side of things, because that's what we value quite a lot. And that's, I think, like I say, growing up and having that job in the sports shop, where it was an old school, very service driven sort of business, that's quite keen to my heart. And I think that's why a lot of people do come to us, because we do, I'm not ashamed to say that I think we do give a cracking service to people of all sizes, of all of our customers. So the person that come in needs to have that kind of integrity in them. And then we can give the training on any machines and software. And if they've got a background of our industry, it's brilliant.
Okay.
But more than happy to, like I say, nurture people with it.
Yeah. So it strikes me, by looking at your kind of tenure guy, you've got kind of 2 sides to the business. You've got your kind of like manufacturing side, if you like, and then you have your kind of business development side of it. So who does it? You're doing the business development at the moment?
Yeah, myself. Yeah. So currently James and Grace will be kind of on the hands-on production side of it.
Is there a reason from the industry point of view or insurance point of view that you can't take, say, an apprentice on or something like that?
No, we could do that. I've thought about doing that, actually, going down the apprentice route and, like I say, nurturing them. We've had our first work experience lad.
Yeah.
He's not a lad, he was 18 years old, coming a couple of weeks ago.
A fully grown man.
Yeah, that's an actual adult, rather than somebody a child such.
Yeah.
And I found that really rewarding, having somebody that was keen to learn and pass on, just general business tips and life tips rather than just specific to what we do. So, I'm open to the idea of an apprentice.
Definitely. It strikes me, I mean, my advice would be perhaps to look at that avenue as you grow, because it's going to be really important for you to build a culture of people that believe in your business and do it the way you want to do it. And it's quite hard if you insert people halfway up the hierarchical structure. You might grow to a team of, say, let's say you go to a team of 20 people doing embroidery and you've got 4 or 5 people doing marketing or business development of some nature. You'll probably need like an office manager or somebody that's not really financially contributing to anything, but they're running the show for you on a kind of operational level. And that person is far better, in my experience, if you can nurture someone up to that position rather than be like, right, we need this position, let's go on Indeed or go to a recruitment company, get them in, because they will come in with their own fresh ideas. They won't have the culture and your core values of your firm, whatever they might be. I'm sure you probably give them to staff when they start, but those core values are quite hard to inflict upon people if they don't really believe in them. And if you are interviewing people, I think that it's really important to explain those core values when you're interviewing that process and have somebody else maybe second check somebody. We've employed people before and I'm like, on paper that person's perfect, and then someone else has double checked, like Laura King's gone that they're not a good fit for the firm, they don't follow this, they don't I feel like you're skewed by the paper, if you like, information that you've got, but you're not looking at whether they're going to be a good fit for the rest of the team. So a far easier way of doing that is to nurture people up through the business. So, and apprenticeships, I mean, we've had ones that are a 1 out of 10 and we've had apprentices that are 10 out of 10. So they do vary, but if you can get them in, they obviously are good. They're a cost-effective one. I know a lot of people go, oh, it's cheap labour or whatever and all that sort of stuff. But actually what you're doing is you're offering a young person the ability that perhaps they might not go off to uni or do what they, traditional education, but they'll come in, do an apprenticeship, and then they'll get some sort of business administration or manufacturing apprenticeship, which they can hold with them for life, which is a skill. But if you keep them in your business, then they're going to know and breathe your way of doing things from day one. So that's quite a useful way of building that kind of side of the team up. And you might find that your future office manager or business development manager exists within that portfolio of people, rather than say going out and employing like one person on 25 grand. You could employ 2 apprentices on 12 grand, and then they might initially chew up a lot of your time when you're getting them there, but after 6 months or so, you'll be like, actually, this is brilliant. Like, we've got loads of spare capacity. And I think the next way for you to grow the business is to make sure that's working perfectly fine and you've got the capacity, but the business development side of things, which is what I want to come on to. Like, I don't know, you need to, obviously, I don't know how many big customers you got or how you define a big customer, but for me, a big customer would be like Sainsbury's or Waitrose. Obviously, they need a lot of uniform, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any colour.
No, so like that sort of level, they would source that themselves overseas. For us, like a big local, I would say. So yeah, Sussex Beds with their 13 stores and growing. The Birchwood Group with all their in Eastbourne, all their.
Is there a reason why they like Waitrose, for instance? Is there a reason why they source it over abroad apart from cost?
Just they've got the capacity to do it, and also often because they want to stand out so much, they'll want fully bespoke items, which you need the volume to do. And they'll have their own marketing teams and factories and things like that anyway. So those.
So they're actually they don't give it to a company to manufacture. No. So the next size done. So say our Halfords, for instance. So they're not as big as Waitrose.
They're not, but they would probably do the same.
Yeah.
It's because they want to have their own bespoke design, whereas what we do, we'll take an off-the-shelf product and put logos on it. So, say for instance, yourself, you'll want to, you'll have a new starter or a new fresh uniform bulk out for the year. You can take the size and have it. Whereas obviously Halfords and those, they'll just order 5 times as much as they currently need and keep it in stock in one of their warehouses and things like that.
So, is there a reason why you don't get into that sort of market then? If you can do that? As well as what you're offering now.
Yeah, a lot of them would just go straight to factories, abroad and get it made at source. I used to work for a hockey company, and the importing side of it on the scales that they'll want, it's almost a role in itself. So I'd prefer to concentrate on,
I'm wondering just out of context, really, if there was some hookup. So you've got like your kind of, I don't know, below 250 employees businesses, which will exist all over the UK and probably in mainland Europe as well. And it would be good to get into a position to target them. But with those bigger companies, I'm sure, I remember I worked at Halfords and I remember the clothing department. But the person that was in charge of that was also in charge of, I don't know, the cleaning contracts at all the stores. It wasn't actually like a full-time job just to select uniform. What we actually looked for was someone that could have come in as a consultant to represent us and go, look, this is what we want, go and find it. And then when you found it, then we'll just keep giving the order to them. So it might be an avenue for you to get in, at least your foot in the door. Yeah. And then we had I'm sure they do it at Waitrose and the bigger companies, but at Halfords, we used to have like a weekend sale and we just order locally. Because we were like, you can't get it quick enough. So if you got your foot in your door through that, then you might be able to maybe do some consultancy work for them and say, look, I'll go to a factory out in, I don't know, Bangladesh or something like that and test out the quality of the products because we know what we're talking about. They'll pay you like, a consultancy fee for doing that. And then you've guided them through that. But what will actually come off the back of that is when they're doing their sale weekend or whatever, Balloon's 50th anniversary, when they can't go to Bangladesh and get 100,000 shirts made in like overnight, they'll come to you because they'll need that done quickly.
We've actually done those sort of ad hoc jobs. We did it for John Lewis when they opened the new place out of Maresfield. They needed high vis for the openings and new lorries coming in and all that sort of thing, and just general t-shirts. So it's interesting, like you say, that consultant point of view. But even trying to get on those ad hoc things that they need.
Yeah, definitely. I would be doing that. And I think that's where you need to get your business to. So you or somebody is a business development manager, you're driving around, you're meeting and having coffee and one-to-ones with the right people, getting in front of them and, saying, look, I can help you better select your uniform in Bangladesh or wherever it might be. But I can also help you if there's an immediate need for clothing. Just suddenly you go, a new piece of legislation's coming and all staff in the car park collecting trolleys have got to have high vis and then they need 100,000 of them or something. And they need them like next week. That's probably much where you're going to fit into that system rather than maybe compete against it. But I would be looking for that because that's big volume stuff, isn't it? Which is really going to be, good cash income for yourself into the business. And your business will then be split into two sides. So you'll have your kind of business, development management side of it, maintaining those relationships. But then you've got the manufacturing side, which is full of your team that believe in the, ethos of it. And you never know, somebody like Waitrose one day will turn around and go, do you know what? We've been slated in the papers for outsourcing it all to Bangladesh, not because it's cheap labour, but because we need to spend money in the UK. Mac, for the next 3 years, can you just make our uniforms in the UK? So we tick that box of being sustainable, maybe until some other remit comes along. And then they already have an existing relationship with you, don't they? So they can then be like, right, we'll go straight to Logo Emporium because we know them and we know what they can produce.
Well, that's what we find of a lot of our customers is that, of all sizes, they just want it to be made easy for them. Do you know what I mean? They're busy doing their day job or whatever. Like I say, nobody's role is really just ordering the uniform. It's the HR person that's doing it or the business owner and things like that. So the fact that people come to us and say, can I just have 5 more polos of these, 20 hoodies and stuff, whatever they want. And we've got it all on record.
I think those things are really good. It's like a little bit of money from a lot of people. So it's good cash flow turner. But as you grow as a business, if you're going to make it to that next level, you're going to need those bigger orders, I think. And more regular customers. Sussex Beds with their 13 stores is good, but you need probably like 10 or 20 of those type customers.
That's what I think, like where I want to be, it's easy for anybody to say, I want bigger customers. And they can't do it, but I'm confident that we can have more of those customers and we can still service them. Because that's, like I say, we service them currently really well, that sort of customer.
Anybody can say they want bigger customers, but you have to actually make the decision to go out and get them. And I think if you can get your manufacturing side so you're not pulled in on it all the time by having a nice, I don't know, the reasons you get pulled in it, is it quality control or is it just a capacity issue?
No, I don't tend to get involved in the production side. We have I love systems and process. So we have
design / production.
So we love the pipeline. So I'll be loading all the jobs onto it and like that. But it's the almost like the salesy type stuff I get drawn into where people are wanting advice on what to have or can we price up this? Can we order this? And then it all goes in the pipeline and James and Grace on the production side will kind of just deal with it from there.
I think if you took on 2 apprentices rather than, and you could train one to do the sales talk and do the pipeline stuff, the other one could be doing the, the production, the physical side, working with Grace and James. And I think that would be a really good system and they will grow up because, you can't hold on to everybody forever. You try and grow up through them and have people. And then when they've grown to a point where, they're not the new Grace and James, but they're as equal as them. And then you bring in, hopefully to grow the business and you bring in the next batch of apprentices and you have a nice system in place. So as you're growing, you're training people up through that. And then I think once your protege or apprentice person that's going to do the sales and marketing role with you, when they're fully trained, they can stop you from being stuck at that computer. You can then get out and try and grow those roles with people, have those conversations, find out where those Waitrose and Halfords people are going to be and try and get in front of them and make sure that you've got their attention. A lot of people send silly stuff in the post. You've got a various array of goods and things that you can send, I'm sure. But the bigger and stupider the box is, the more likely they're actually going to open it. Like no one opens pens anymore.
No, it's all lumpy mail, isn't they call it?
Lumpy mail. Everyone loves a bit of lumpy mail.
That's it.
It's lumped. It's got to be a sizable piece.
Yeah, it's got to be a bit of a burden. You're open it, or you're intrigued, isn't it?
Like, I think if you sent like the right person at Halfords, for example, I'm using them as a thing because obviously I work there, so I know how that system worked when I was there. If you sent them a box full of like various things, maybe with their own name on it rather than Halfords on it, or a mixture or something like that, then you're bound to at least get some response from that. So I think that hunting down those key customers is really going to help you grow the business, because without those big ones, then it's going to be difficult to scale, really. But I don't think there's anything wrong with you going to, basically just going in and going like, we can offer you this consultancy service, and then see if you can grow from there, get some seeds.
No, it's really interesting that, like, say, that different sort of approach to the role, an external role sort of thing from the day-to-day of it. Not thought of that.
Definitely. I really hope you enjoyed this podcast today, and it's been a really, really good listen so far. But if you want to get on this podcast and come on the show, it's totally and utterly 100% free. All you have to do is come into the podcast studio, sit down, we film it for YouTube, and then we also make an audio file for Spotify, Apple, all those streaming services. What you need to do is head over to our website, www.matthewcox, that's Matthew with 2 T's, .biz. So it's matthewcox.biz. There's a preloaded form on there. Fill that in, apply to be on the podcast. We'll get back to you within a few days, get you booked in, we'll get you on here, and then we'll sort out your goals and your achievements. Back to the podcast. I'd definitely be looking at that sort of system, really. And I think from a cash flow point of view, in the early days, it's quite good to have that in terms of growing your team. One of the things that I wanted to come on to is like your kind of marketing website and the rest of it. What do you do to kind of get yourself up the Google rankings and get yourself out there? Because I see a bit of your social media posts and sort of things like that, and they're quite good, but I don't know whether they get loads of traction, whether you put money into promoting those, or what do you do?
So we do all the social media in-house. And I like to give responsibility to James and Grace to do it, because I think it's, if I was just to do it, it would kind of be quite the same. So we've got a system where we have that brand as such, so you're consistent with it. But I think the input from different people doing it and doing different shots and things like that is good, because what I'm very conscious of is not just here's a picture of some more clothing we've done somebody, here's another picture, here's a video of the machines and stuff. So I try and keep it quite fresh. So we do that in-house. We don't tend to do anything paid. Where we sit with customers is they'll only come to us when they want us. Nobody's going to impulse buy a new uniform or workwear or promo items. So what we try and do with the social media, just kind of always be there, always be present, so that we're just in the back of their mind. And it's the same with like email marketing. We don't flood emails to people, perhaps once a month, maybe one every 3 weeks or something like that. And again, it's just a little, hello, we're still here. Remember us. Because quite a lot of people who go, I've been meaning to place an order for a while, but haven't got around to it. That's usually the line people are saying. So that's what we do with that side of things. And then from the website, the team at Fountain Digital, I leave it to them. It's like witchcraft, isn't it? Working with Google and stuff like that.
I would say we'll come back to the website in a bit, but the social media stuff, I find it's really cool, like watching the needle and the machine going in and stuff. And for me, from an outsider, feedback would be it's quite good when you see like a logo you recognise, like as a customer. So it's like a validity thing. Oh, you're working with them, then you might sort of put your own business in that kind of league of that. So I think they're really good to pull on. I don't know if you're across like all the social media platforms at all, but consistency across them. And if I think it's probably good if you do some video stuff as well, not just the the embroidery going on and the process, but maybe like a 1 minute little tour around your factory or something. Introduce James and Grace.
They're very camera shy, so it's like I'm very conscious.
They can have their faces like that, and you go, "This is James over there," and he'll probably go like that and not turn his face. But that sort of thing. Even if you can just do that every now and then, I think it breaks up the monotony of doing the same thing all the time. And it also makes your business seem a little bit human.
Yeah,
people
more
like
personable.
to deal with that personal nature. Maybe get someone to film you and say, like, this is what goes on, from an initial customer. They've sent this logo that they've just sketched on a bit of paper. Like, that's really hard for us to work with, but we can do this and we can do that, and we've turned it into something useful. And from that, we've created this or whatever, just in really short videos, not for the likes of TikTok necessarily, but even just on your own website. And then I would always put the captions on them so that it's actually displaying in text what you're saying. So many people put their phones on silent and then they're flicking through them, and then obviously they're not won't hear what you're saying. I think that would break it up a little bit. And then if you've got like a promotion on or something like that, if you're going to, do some email marketing and be like, look, we've got this type of top on offer or whatever, it is worth paying for the pay for click, the adverts on Facebook and for Google and all the rest of it. I'm sure Danny and Nat at Fountain Digital can give you some advice on that,
definitely.
But for very little money, it can give you a much wider exposure. And even if all that's going to do is maybe generate you some more leads that probably give you some profit over it, but over your kind of standard, orders or whatever. But what it will do is give you validity, so that when you end up dealing with the likes of Halfords, Waitrose, or those bigger firms, when they can see your social presence, you've got much more to you than just like the posts of, say, the embroidery machinery working. Website wise, just coming on to that, obviously we order stuff from you and I have a look at your website, and it is, I know with the subscription model that Fountain Digital run, you can make tweaks to your website, but I think it's always good, and they do encourage this, for you to sit with them and like go through it and see if there's some tweaks to be made, rather than just leaving them to their own devices. Because I think the websites need constant tinkering with. Like, Google is like a hungry child, and you have to continuously feed it with new content, blogs, videos, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how much of that goes on your website, but even just making small tinkers with the way that you put your e-commerce and all the, clicking the buttons and the rest of it. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but from your website, I don't think you can like add them to a basket to order, can you? You can,
so we've got our website that Danny and the team do, and then all of our product catalogues link to supplier catalogues, because then it keeps up to date with all the prices, the stock level stuff. But you can place orders through them. It's just not great. It's a bit clunky. So
Daniel will know more than me, but the people that look after our website, it's a necessary evil having links to external websites, but it doesn't always do your Google rankings that great. So you have to then spend lots of time doing your other bits, like your, I don't know if you do like blogs and stuff like that, those sort of things. So make sure they're optimized for, SEO content, and just tinker with the website every now and then. We've probably had about 4 or 5 reiterations of the Charles Scott's website since 2020. So, it's almost like one a year of like major overhauls, not new websites, but we've been like, right, we want a video on the homepage, for instance. Like, if you go on our website, there'll be like, there's some drone footage flying over some buildings, for instance. That's like a new thing on the homepage. So from a visual point of view, it looks different, but actually kind of, we've only made like 10% of changes, but it's a constant tweaking to it and adding new little bars and bits and bobs. And then that feeds the Google. So like when someone types in, because you're not geographic, like say like this property management business is, you want someone typing in like, embroidered tops or work gear or something like that. Look at those phrases. And again, they should be able to advise you on that, and then go, right, what do we need to do if people are always typing in work gear rather than embroidered tops, like we need the word work gear on our website a lot more prevalent. Like, and that's with all due respect to Fountain Digital, you do have to kind of go to them and go, like, I want to make some changes, and then they'll start. Not that they're sitting doing nothing, but they need the customer to interact with them. So many businesses like run that system where you go, right, you've got the unlimited thing, but they are reliant upon you coming and saying, I want to make some tweaks. They're not generally going to suggest to you, why don't you have some new profile pictures on there on your website. I don't know if you have them or not, but
no, don't scare people away.
No, but that personable thing, or like links to your Facebook page. So like vice versa. They can come back and forth. Maybe some videos of the embroidery machinery going and some printing ones on your homepage to show what you do.
That's what we like. One of the things we're going to do, Danny's going to come in and do some that a bit like you say with the drones on that homepage and that front and center. Yeah, the big video.
Exactly that. And I think you'll find that it's like a whole load of ingredients and then they come to make a cake in the middle, because doing your website on its own or doing a better Facebook things or employing the apprentice or maybe upscaling some people will not individually, they probably will not quite get there, but multiple, the multipliers across them, and it's very difficult to quantify how much doing your website's actually done for it. It's just a pool of things, a bit like the sugar in a cake. It's probably what makes it taste nice, but actually contributed very little to the. It's
a multi-pronged attack, isn't it? Like say, you've got to be coming at all angles.
Exactly.
Of marketing.
So I think I would definitely be looking at doing that in order to get you up to the next stage. So the only other thing you mentioned, obviously, juggling family needs, doing the school run 3 days a week, and that sort of stuff. Obviously, that is most parents' problems. You only have so much time and you have to balance that. And it is inherently difficult. And I'll be the first to admit I get it wrong sometimes, probably more often than not, if you ask my kids. But it is very hard. But I try to have some strict things in place where between, like when I get home, like say 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock, I try not to do emails or take calls if I can. It doesn't always pan out that way, but that time, so it's like bedtime to that. Luckily for me, my wife tends to go to bed fairly early. She go to bed about 9 o'clock when it's kind of around the kids' time. And then I will, instead of watching Love Island or whatever on the telly, I'll spend my time. Not my favourite sort of thing. Other shows available, but other than watching reality TV on the telly, I will try and do something that is productive. So I feel like I'm always then ahead of the game and gaining that bit. So not necessarily work. So I wouldn't be like fulfilling customers' orders or replying to emails necessarily. I'll be thinking about like our profit and loss and like, where can we go? Can we get this cheaper here? Or can we do something different? How can we tinker our website? I mean, Julia, who does our stuff, not a different company to Danny's, but she is pretty good at receiving this, but she'll like have stuff for me quite late at night, and then she'll be like, don't worry about it, I'll tweak it in the morning or whatever. And I like that kind of way of working, because obviously she's cut from a similar cloth, if you like. But that sort of thing where I'm like, right, this is the time where I'm going to spend the time working on the business, like totally. And I've done that for quite a long time. Some people might say it's quite boring, I'd rather watch the telly or whatever, but I'd say those people probably struggle to grow their businesses or they don't spend that time. I'm a little odd, I would say, that I think you're right. I like to do that. I'll have the telly on in the background, but I will always be trying to work on something, look at something, or if there's something that didn't really fit into the day-to-day of the business, like someone sent you, I don't know, like Danny's, for instance, at Foundation, they send you a load of gumph about how much you could pay for advertising the click, and these are the types of returns. That might be a distraction from what you're doing at that moment in time, but that's the time when I would read that. I'd be like, let me have a proper read of it before
I just it for another time.
Exactly. And it might be 24 hours, 48 hours before I even read it, but I'll spend that time where I can actually read it, and then I'm like, this isn't really something to do with the operational part of the business. This is to do with growing it, and that's, you need to get to that point where you're working on the business, not it.
I think it's like it's that default diary type thing, isn't it? I think you're right. Putting a bit of time aside specifically do that.
There's nothing wrong with picking your kids up from school, doing the school run, and then hanging out with them until 9 o'clock at night. But
I think quite a long time I felt like, when I started to get into that, I felt quite guilty that it sounds silly, I was neglecting my business because of my kids, which is like, it's obviously the wrong way around, but that's what it felt like. I felt like I had a guilt between being torn. We're trying to run a business and grow a business that contributes a lot to our family, compared to looking after the kids and like, I sound a terrible parent
as well. Like you have a responsibility to them as well. So Yeah.
So yeah, it took me a long time, and I saw it was a Daniel Priestley clip. He said, don't feel guilty or feel certain ways because everybody's circumstances and their lifestyles are different. So don't be comparing to somebody that can spend 18 hours a day thinking about their business and then they sleep a bit and then they do it like that. So I think it's a bit of a mindset thing, getting your head around that. Actually, it's quite all right. It's allowed. You're allowed to be a family man without feeling guilty about the business.
I definitely think so, and it is difficult juggling. And as I think I said a minute ago, your staff are almost like children of your own right because you are responsible for them. Ultimately, you got to pay their salaries and everything every month. So the key is to get into the business to grow, so you can work on it and not in it, and then the time is a bit more flexible. But I mean, it helps for me that I grew up in an environment where there wasn't like a 9-to-5 job in my household, really. Everybody either didn't work because they were housewives or whatever, or they just worked whatever the hours that were required. So some weeks that would be a 60-hour week. Next week it might only be 25. So I kind of got into sort of managing my time in that sense. But definitely the guilt factor, I found I got rid of that when I was like, I haven't done anything for a while, and then I would then wait for everyone to go to bed, and then I would work. I mean, I find I need like 6 hours sleep, so as long as I'm in bed by midnight, then I'm fine.
You're right.
I know a lot of people will go to bed a bit earlier than that, 11 o'clock or something, but they might get up earlier than me. Might get up at 5. I don't know. So yeah, I definitely would encourage anybody that really wants to be serious and grow their business to use that spare time to educate yourself and stuff. I mean, even when I've got nothing to do, I will still watch videos that are of interest to me. Learn stuff on the internet. I'll be learning about taxation and how we could be more profitable. I'll be looking at what other business owners have done and other things. I might even be looking at other, I mean, I don't know how many competitors around here, but other embroidery companies. I'll be researching them on the internet thinking, this owner's 62 years old. He's probably going to have to retire in the next 5-6 years. So, maybe it's worth reaching out to them. They've got the same 2 members of staff that they had like 5 years ago, and the business is all a bit stagnant. So maybe it's worth reaching out to them. You don't always have to part with your own cash. There are many different ways to make acquisitions. Spending the time doing that really, as well as, if there's not something to read or stuff to get back, to educate yourself really. Go, right, here's part of my 10-year goal. If I'm going to upscale this, they've got a really lucrative contract with XYZ. I want to try and acquire that business when that owner naturally wants to retire. You might take them for a coffee and go, look, I don't want to retire, but I do want to go around the world on a cruise for 6 months. And at that point, they'll be like, okay, well, that's an angle for me, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
How do we get you on that cruise?
Yeah.
How about I run your business for you for a year or something like that, and then I'll split the profits with you. Oh, that's good. I'm still earning money whilst I'm on the cruise. And then you fade them out of the business. And that way you're not having to part with your own money to buy it.
No, I think it's interesting that how you acquire different businesses, or especially if they're in the same industry with you, naturally you would think they're a competitor and the shield would go up and you don't want to talk to them, innit? But actually
I think just reaching out to people, like literally just ping them an email, just say, I don't know if you considered your exit plan or you want to collaborate together or whatever you might want to do. Most competitors, eventually they're going to want to retire or whatever. It's, unless they're like a really big firm and they're going to get swallowed up by another big firm. You'll find that there will be a similar sized company to yours. And, imagine, I don't know how old you are now, but say 30 years time, you'll be like, I'm sick of this now. I want to sit down and enjoy my life. That's the person that you target. Who's perhaps otherwise struggling. You can look at people's accounts online and the rest of it. You can see it's quite easy. And I just have like a standard email that I write just saying, hi, forgive me for just, abruptly introducing myself. But, I don't know if you considered your exit plan or if you've got a strategy or whatever, but we're looking to work with other businesses and maybe in some sort of collaborative way or whatever. Just open it like that rather than going in and being like, are you for sale?
Yeah. Can I buy you? Yeah.
So,
no, that's interesting as well. Because, I've had like opportunities where people at a broker have emailed and say our client is a similar industry to you looking to sell. Yeah. So I've looked into this, a couple of years ago, other businesses, and then it just, like I say, it didn't work out, so I moved on for it. But yeah, it's always been interesting to see what you can.
The best ones to buy are the ones that haven't gone through a broker, because they're the ones that you can get really creative with how they're going to exit the market. The brokers want a commission, so they want you to just pay. Say it's worth 100 grand. They want you to pay 100 grand up front. They get their commission. The owner walks off. Everyone's happy. And you might say, "Well, I'll pay you half now and half in a year," and the other half's adjusted for any loss of any big contracts, so you've protected yourself a bit. Everyone's happy. That's it. But that deal, you probably could have gone to that owner and said, look, I'll tell you what, how about I'll buy the business off you for nothing and I'll grow it and you can have 50% of it for 2 years.
Yeah.
So you end up getting 150 grand because you know it's making 100 at the moment.
Yeah.
Where you're going to get half of it, but I'm going to grow it. So it's making 150 grand a year. And this is how I'm going to do it. And then they'll be like, well, I'm going to get, so I have to stick around for a little bit longer, but I'm going to get 150 rather than 100. So that was, if that's of interest to them, then that's a really good way of you basically using the profits to fund the acquisition.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to have to work a little harder for 2 years whilst you're kind of not really earning any money, but trying to grow it for them.
Yeah.
And of course, there's no general remit. You don't know what's around the corner. So if you don't grow it, you don't grow it. But they're guaranteed they're going to get half of whatever they've got now. So as long as you don't lose loads of business, then it funds.
I think that's the tricky thing in it, because you're essentially given that leap of faith again, aren't you? You're assuming that their customer base will still stick with you, and there's no reason why they wouldn't. But you're just hoping that they do, don't you? Otherwise,
exactly that.
You're not really buying anything, are you?
No,
otherwise,
you're buying the contracts, and you might find that they do their business differently. You might say they've got some really big customers, and what they've done is they've tied them into a minimum amount of order. So they say, I can't give it to you at dirt cheap prices unless you guarantee me X, Y, Z. And you might find that even though they're smaller than you, their business has morphed in a different direction.
Yeah.
And that will give you some ideas, and you'll be like, okay, so it's got a strong basis. People repeat orders. I can see all of that. You've got a few contracts in place. You can speak to a mergers and acquisitions specialist, and they'll give you a rough valuation of what that building's worth. What that business is worth. But generally speaking, it's like kind of a multiplier of EBITDA, earnings, that sort of thing, some sort of profit and loss or retained customers. I'm hazarding a guess. It's probably about 3 times EBITDA figures. So, and then what you'll do is you'll strip out any of the expenses that the business owner's kind of incurring, like if they're running a car through it or something like that, or they're paying their wife as a director's salary. Strip all of that out. That's the true adjusted earnings, and then it'll be a multiplier of that, basically. So, that'll be a good way of growing the business and expanding it, and also deleting a competitor, essentially, isn't it? So then your market's basically
exactly. You're growing on different fronts, aren't you?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just move on, really, I suppose, to the kind of summary. Really, I think we've kind of covered everything. We've looked at what you do day to day in the business as well. So I suppose my advice or medicine, if you like, would be definitely look at The Apprentice. I think that's a really good way of dividing up your salary, if you like, if there's limited money right now, to get a maximum bang for your buck. I'm a big advocate of apprentices, having done quite a few of them here, and see if you can work that. But that focus on trying to get somebody to do the computer pipeline sales type works eventually would be allow you to then try and go and focus on those bigger customers. And I think the bigger ones, don't be scared or put off by the fact that they're using Bangladesh to or even own the factory in Bangladesh because they're ordering that much. I mean, Marks and Spencer's, for instance, is all over Europe. Yeah. I don't know if they're outside of Europe or not, but there's lots of branches. So they might even own the factory that produces the clothing. I still don't think that should stop you from at least trying to get in the door there, because those local promotions. Yeah, there'll
probably be an opportunity somewhere along.
Mother's Day, Father's Day, all those kind of things that are, one-off prints, if you like, and repeat business. And if you can then act as a consultant to them as well, because often, as I say, that job is literally just given to somebody that perhaps doesn't really, your head of marketing, that includes the uniform.
Well, that's the thing, we do with marketing managers, HR managers, like anybody that's got a bit of
it's hard to do marketing, HR, and understand the difference of quality of uniform. and at a price as well. You know, like you have got the orange bit sewed in. I know that's, you know, off the shelf and then usually sew. But if, say, you were Halfords, it's black and orange. You know, they might say, we want this here, but we want a zigzag pattern in it or something like that or whatever, you know, and then you compromise the quality of the garment by doing that because of the way that they do it. So the HR manager is not best placed to do that. Or the marketing person.
No, it's a job. It's a job they're given to do, isn't it? Like, can you also do this? Yeah,
exactly. So you see all the time they do consultancy roles, those big companies, because they only need you in for like a short period of time.
Yeah.
Just to do one task, tell us about it, and then that's it, really.
Yeah.
You know? They have a marketing department in Pepsi, but they spent something like £9 million redesigning the logo, which was the old kind of white Pepsi tins to the new sort of blue style ones. But they outsource that, even though they have a marketing department, because they know those people are specialists in like complete rebranding.
Yeah.
Then they leave it to the marketing team within Pepsi to run with it. Yeah, exactly. So I think there's definitely a role for you there if you can get your foot in the door there, and that should lead to some other bolt-on work, really. I like the product line. You obviously lots of expansion, so you do more than just embroidered clothing and logo stuff. You've got cups and bits and bobs and things and sunglasses and all that sort of jazz. So I think that would be an avenue that I would say maybe look at if you weren't doing that. And then you could also work with other companies as well, like influencers and stuff like that. And I know you do a little bit of work with some other signage companies and things where you can provide them. So they've got a bolt-on service, but it's white labelled back to you. So definitely look at those sort of opportunities as well, because you'll find like some influencers, they have like merchandise stores and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some of them can be really big, hundreds and thousands of shirts and bits of garments and things like that, and all they want is their logos written on it, so they're advertising themselves. Those would be quite good. You get someone in your marketing department to reach out to a few people that on YouTube that have got influencers, and they've got those sort of merch stores, if you like, as the kids call them, merchandise merch. So I think I'd definitely be looking at doing that. And then the juggling of the family life stuff is always complicated, but try and get into that habit of, recouping your time in the evening when it's quiet, rather than sort of doing what your average person would do, which would be just watch mind-numbing.
No, that's it. I mean, I do spend time in the evenings, like I say, always catching up or getting ahead.
I think it's the difference between catching up because you've had the time off for the kids, or always using that knowledge, because sometimes there's no time to catch, there's nothing to catch up with, and then the default person would sit on the sofa and watch Love Island. The more savvy person would go, what is it extra I can learn right now? What is it I can do? Can I tinker with the website? Maybe I'll send Danny an instruction to move some things around or whatever, or keywords or something like that. So try and utilize those times. So I think that's probably hopefully a good bit of advice for you. Definitely, and be really good to have you on the show in about a year's time, see if you've got your apprentice or whatever route you've gone down. But I definitely look at the apprentice, go for the bigger customers, and then obviously try and manage the time effectively in the evenings would be like the sort of 3 key tips that I would go for. So we'll just wrap up there. Did you have any other questions at all? Anything specific you wanted to ask?
No, it's been just nice to chat about business. I love chatting about business. Anybody has business, and like yourself, I enjoy chatting about other people. And you learn a lot, don't you, from people outside of industries and how they do things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I learn a lot on this show. People tell me stuff all the time. So, so how do they get hold of you then if they want to order some clothing or some sunglasses or whatever?
So we could Google us. We're the Logo Emporium. There's nobody really else called that. All of our social media handles of that as well. So Google's the best way, and everything will pop up there. Fine. Or people could feel free to call, talk to an actual human, or they can send us an email. Yeah, definitely, Okay, so we go to logoemporium.co.uk. That's it, or at the Logo Emporium. Or at the Logo Emporium. Brilliant. Well, it's been lovely having you on, and as I say, it'd be good to see how you go in about a year's time, and hopefully you're on your way to that kind of getting out of that sort of working in it status, really, and you've got a nice system in place ready for growth. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, mate. All right, cheers. Cheers.
So guys, I really hope you enjoyed that and you took away some really useful snippets of information, whether that will be kind of stuff at the beginning or stuff halfway through. Hopefully there was some useful content in there that was going to help you on your business journey and reaching your goals. However, if you do want to come on the podcast, please go to the website, fill in the form, download it, submit it. We'll get you on the podcast and hopefully I can help you reach those goals and achieve whatever it is you're trying to work towards.